Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and welcome to our presentation. My name is Hanif.
My name is Mohd Ahmad Shukri.
And my name is Syabil Ariq bin Saharin.
So today we will be analyzing and presenting a topic called Dark Skin and Getting Married, which is a stand-up comedian by Saharin. So basically we choose an Indian English accent because we really think that it is different from others. So before leaving out, let's begin with Hazeem. Good luck, Hazeem.
Okay, thank you Hanif for inviting me on the in front of the TV. So to start off our presentation today, I would like to give you a brief introduction on the video of Dark Skin and Getting Married by Saharin. So this video is about 10 minutes long and in this video, Saharin shares his personal experience growing up in India as a dark-skinned middle-class person in India. So through the usage of jokes, humor, he shows a lot of cultural references. He critiques many many problems that are present in India. For example, marriage pressure and colorism and traditional arranged marriage and stuff like that. So yeah, he uses humor to critique these subjects so that it will become more lighter towards the audience, which will be explained by me and will be thoroughly explained by Hanif later. So this performance shows how language and humor acts as a bridge to discuss sensitive cultural issues. Like I said earlier, by using humor and by using his language, which is the Indian English language, he can critique social issues in India while also telling more about their culture and their the things that are present in India. So next slide, Hanif. Okay, thank you. So to start off our presentation, after the introduction, we'll be looking at the situational context. We will be analyzing the situational context of the video. As we can see in the screenshots here, this is Saharin, the comedian, and also this is Saharin in front of the audience. We can see that this setting, it takes place in a stand-up comedy show, probably somewhere in a building, in a stage, somewhere in India. And this is very clear because we can see that all of the audiences are Indian. I will explain later about the participants. And the time which this comedy stand-up took place is in modern India, because we can see that here Saharin mentions a lot about modern day culture. For example, he talks about the internet, talks about some websites like jivansati.com. He also mentions celebrities like Michael Jackson. You see, by looking at the things that he says, we can see that the time that this stand-up comedy took place is modern day India. And we can also see the time taken place by looking at the video when it was uploaded, and we can see that it was uploaded about 6 to 7 years ago. So the participants will be thoroughly explained on the next slide, which is the situational context of the presentation. So Hanif, can you change the slide? Okay, thank you very much. So I will be thoroughly analyzing the two main participants in this situation, which is Saharin, the comedian himself as the speaker, and also the audience. So first of all, Saharin. Saharin is the comedian here, and he is, you can see that he's a dark-skinned Indian, he's a bit thin, and we can see that he also tells him about he's unmarried, he's in the middle class, which is the place between low class and high class. He uses all of these things about himself to make jokes about it. For example, he says that being dark-skinned makes girls run away from him and stuff like that. He uses his unmarried status to say that he doesn't, girls don't like him and stuff like that. So we can see that this is a part of his strategy, self-deprecating. And this will be further analyzed by Hanif later about the self-deprecating humor. He mocks himself in front of the audience, and the audience laughs. And you might be wondering, why does he mock himself? So by mocking himself, the audience would be like more relatable, because the audience are Indian, and I will explain it later in the audience part. The audiences are Indian, so they will be like, oh, this guy is very similar to me, for the guys of course, and the girls would be like, oh, so this is what happens to guys because of us girls, like that. So by using these relatable strategies, he makes the audience more related to their culture. So I would like Hanif to show the video clip about him talking about that. Okay, so this is the clip.
Most girls who see me for the first time don't like me. If only they spend some time with me and get to know me better, they start to truly hate me.
Okay, stop. Okay. As you can see, he said that if girls truly get to know him, then they would definitely hate him. So you see, by using humor and comedy in this stand-up comedy context, the audience would be more lighthearted, would be more joyous, more happy to listen to him. And by also using exaggeration, he also makes the audience more comfortable. For example, he said that in the presentation, his mother always buys him all almond milk instead of buffalo milk, because by using almond milk on his body, he can become more whiter. And if his mother doesn't buy buffalo milk towards him, then he doesn't get buff. So basically, he exaggerates by saying that his mother always showers him with almond milk to make him whiter and doesn't give him buffalo milk. So that's why he's thin. By using this exaggeration, the audience will be like, oh my god, this is so absurd. So this is so hilarious, like that. So the audience is more lighthearted. And he also makes a bit of a cultural reference in his jokes. For example, Michael Jackson. Now, you might be wondering, why did he mention Michael Jackson? This is because, as we all know, Michael Jackson is actually a black person. But because of, he has a medical condition, from years to years, he became more fair-skinned, more white. So, he relates the cultural reference, he relates Michael Jackson's situation towards him and his mother, making him showering in almond milk so that he becomes more whiter. So all of these strategies to make the audience more lighthearted, to make them more happy, is makes the audience more comfortable to talk about the social problems in India, and this will be explained in the audience. So the audience, like we all know, is mostly Indian, and they will probably are already married, they're middle class. So since the audience is Indian, they relate more to what Saharin is saying. Imagine if Saharin were to make his stand-up comedy to some people in America, or to some people in Malaysia or in Japan. People might not relate to it, because a lot of the comedy that Saharin presents is rooted in the Indian culture itself. For example, the marriage pressure, where the mothers want their sons or daughters to marry faster so that they can get grandkids, or the colorism issue that happens in India. So by having an Indian audience, Saharin can relate more about his jokes to the audience themselves, and we can see that they laugh of the jokes that Saharin says, because it's true. Like, for example, him making jokes about the societal norms, about his mother wanting herself to become a grandmother so that Saharin marries faster. The audiences laugh because they relate to it. Their mothers also do it. And like, for example, the joke about colorism, where the girls might run away because he's more dark skinned than usual. That is also a relatable issue in India, which is the colorism issue. By using humor in this context, the audiences laugh because they accept the truth. If you say about these problems in a more, like you say it in front of the face without any jokes, they might not accept it. They might be uncomfortable, like, oh no, we don't accept this doesn't happen. But by using these jokes, they will be laughing like, oh yeah, this happens in India. So by using comedy, Syakiran, makes the truth of the issues that are in the Indian culture more comfortable to be faced, to accept upon. So, and a lot of these things that I say will be explained more by Hanif later when he explains more about the cultural context. So, yeah, that is all about the situational context of this video. Now, I would like to pass on the presentation to Hanif to explain furthermore on the cultural context of the interaction. So, I welcome Hanif.
Welcome guys. So, my turn. So today I'll be explaining about cultural context analysis. So, what is actually cultural context analysis? Well, cultural context, it actually refers to the values, the norms, and even the references that we could actually analyze in the video. So as if you can see in the video, it is about a stand-up comedian Indian accent. So what did I actually find about the values? Well, let's dive into it. So the first thing first is actually the marriage pressure. So as we all know, it is an English Indian accent. So of course his accent is more to like Indian, his words is more like Indian, and the way he pronounces the words is in Indian. But why does he uses these values to actually make it as a joke? Well, first thing first is actually the marriage pressure. Like Hazeem said earlier, he stated the marriage pressure so that he can actually caught the audience's eyes. Like we can see in the video, the marriage pressure in Indian society, marriage is not just a personal choice but a family and social expectations. So we all know why did he actually make this joke, because he know that the people in India can actually caught his joke. Just imagine if he made a joke about marriage to the English people, to the Americans people. Of course the people will be offended because they are not used to the culture, right? And as an example, Indian families often push their children to marry early. Like the joke that he mentioned was, she says, I don't want to be a good mother or a great mother, make me a grandmother. So as you can see from that example, you can see how he uses the values and cultural in India to actually pronounce it into his own language, even if it's just like a joke. So moving on, the colorism. So colorism, you might think like this is a racist, this is a racism, but he actually uses the values in Indian norms so that his words, his language is more adaptable. Like we can see, preference for lighter skin is common in Indian cultural belief that lighter skin, which means the people is more beautiful and more desirable. So I beg to differ, because I really think that his words of language is more towards like a discrimination or even racism. Like I found an article that says research shows that color-based discrimination in India is not just about beauty, but it is deeply embedded in social structures and everyday practices, by Bajwa, Von Moore and Stephen. So you can see there the factors of him using the language about colorism is because of his own country. It's because he is an Indian himself. He knows and he values and he adapts his words by meaning that colorism in India is by how people look on their face. If he is a light skin, well, he will be preserved better, he will look better, and people will not judge him even more. But darker skin is often unfairly judged, especially in arranged marriages. As you can see, my mom spent more money on almond milk to rub on my skin and make it fairer than buffalo milk to feed me. So this actually highlights the fairness creams and treatments are common cultural practices. So for me, like his words of languages is actually influenced really by his culture and his values. So like I understand what he is trying to say, but for me the use of his words, the use of his language is really adapted by his cultural. So I really support his way of language. So the next one is religious references. So if you guys can see in the video that we took 3 to 5 minutes, he critiques how Lord Krishna describes as dark in sculptures is often shown as blue. Like he said, how colorblind do you have to be to confuse the color of the cloud with the color of the sky? So you can see he actually likes criticize a god. He criticized some religions. Can you imagine if he did that in Malaysia? Can you imagine if he used that words in America or in in Arab or in even Malaysia ourselves? Like his words of language, he can use it only with his own people. So that is why my analysis is about what factors him to use that kind of language. What factors him to use that Indian accent? So for me, this actually reflects how culture reshapes even religious figures to fit beauty standards. So moving on, Syabil. So the next one is, and that I found, is actually the Indian English accent, the code switching with the local references and rhythm influenced by native languages. Like I said earlier, he used Indian accent words to actually connect with the audiences in his stand-up. Like imagine if us as Malaysian, if we actually understand how Indian accent works, would we actually understand it? So for me, I think that we might understand, but a few words we don't really understand it, right? So as an example, non-Indian audience may not understand all references, shows how language and cultures are connected. And English in Indian context is more than communication, as it carries cultural. So our language that we took is Indian English accent. And why we took it? Because we really believe that English Indian accent, people only understand it if they are from Indian themselves. So like, as I showed earlier, all of his words are actually connected to the audience, are actually meaningful to the audience, are actually adapted to the audience. So that is why I really believe that the cultural context is really important in the speaker use of his language. So moving on, Syabil. So now I will answer the interpersonal context. So interpersonal context actually refers to the relationship, the tone, the level of formality, and how he uses in his speech. So the first one is his relationship. So like I said earlier, his audiences must be an Indian. His audiences must be maybe from the same culture, or maybe someone who actually understands how he lives. Like we see, informal comedian uses audience interaction. How can he actually manages to use his words which actually criticize some people, which actually criticize Indians? How did he use it with people that can't understand it? So of course his audience must be actually really adaptable and really interact with him, correct? And moving on, the relationship with his audience is that he builds rapport through shared cultural experiences. So when he actually uses his words of languages to actually criticize people, he actually related it to his own life. Like he said, he mentioned about his mother, he mentioned about his life. So that is why people will not really felt hearted about it, because he mentioned it and he felt it with the people in the room. So that is why his relationship was actually great. And the next one is audience feels included because jokes reflect their daily lives. So like I said earlier, he actually related not just to himself but to audience all around it. So it's not just like a normal talk, it's actually like an inspirational but a critic use of language. And the next one is his tone. As you guys can see, his tone, it wasn't even formal. It wasn't even like bahasa rasmi, but it was more to like a satirical and humorous tone, which makes the laughter softens sensitive topics. For example, if he talked about politics, but with his kind of tone, would people actually make it viral? Would people actually take it to their heart? Of course no, because his tone is more to like a joking tone, a humorous tone. And the next one is his tone actually engaged storytelling style, which actually keeps the audience attentive, and he uses exaggeration to highlight cultural truths. So actually from his speech, he doesn't even make bad things, but he actually explains the real thing in life. He actually uses his language to actually tell the truth about cultural and his country. And the last one is politeness strategy. Criticism hidden in jokes avoids direct confrontation, uses self-deprecating humor, joking about his own skin, makes the audience comfortable, and lastly turns taboo subjects, colorism, marriage, into acceptable conservation. So in my opinion, I really believe that his use words of language actually is a main factor to why people can actually accept his talk. And the last slide is level of formality, informal and conversational. He uses casual English, exaggeration, and simple words that the audience can easily relate to. And I want to talk a little bit about politeness strategies. He actually used self-deprecation, exaggeration, and indirect criticism. Like I found in this, Bhargava and Singhal argue that stand-up comedy in India is functional like a public sphere, allowing performers to challenge dominant cultural values while still engage audiences. He actually used politeness strategy so that people don't actually take offense to his jokes. Like he said, he exaggerates to make fun of misconceptions about dark skin. If he really mentioned it about racism, if he really mentioned it about dark skin, of course he would be criticism, people would hate him. And he used self-deprecation. He actually mentioned himself as a dark guy. He critiqued himself so that his use of language could be accepted by people. So I think that was an amazing analysis, and now I will hand it out to Syabil.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I am Mohd Ariq, Mohd Saharin, and right now I'm going to explain a little bit more about what Hanif said earlier. So the interpersonal context that the stand-up comedian Saharin used in his comedian stand-up. So the politeness strategies that he used, that is self-deprecation, which is he jokes about his own looks and failures, making the audience laugh without offending them. So self-deprecation means that Saharin used this to mock about himself, to make the audience laugh and feel the jokes that Saharin used in that room. So the second one is exaggeration. This is melanin, not Teflon. He exaggerates to make fun of misconceptions about dark skin. So when he said about this is melanin, not Teflon, he basically used this to make a jokes about dark skin because he is also a dark skin. So indirect criticism, instead of directly attacking society for discrimination, he hides the criticism in humor, like when he says, in this country, the whitewashed brown skin, you need black money. So indirect criticism means that he attacks, for example, he attacks that one side without indirectly, without the direct perspective. So that is what Hanif wants to say earlier. So next slide. So interpersonal context. This is the balancing informality with respect. This is what Saharin used in his stand-up comedy. So while the tone is casual and filled with slang or exaggeration, he avoids offensive or aggressive language. Even though he jokes a lot, even though he jokes around, he making many jokes in his in the stage, he also keeps the respect and keep the respect in the informality. So that is what Saharin used in the stage. So even when mocking cultural norms, he uses exaggeration rather than insults. These fair-skinned morons thinks if a cow stays in the sun too long, it becomes a buffalo. This is what Saharin says in the clip. So even when mocking cultural norms, he uses exaggeration rather than insults. So he doesn't insult that side directly, but he insults indirectly, which is he making some jokes, and yeah, he keeps the respect, and he is not that kind of serious guy. So this allows him to criticize without alienating his listeners. So the second one is shared cultural knowledge as connection. He assumes his audience knows about matrimonial sites, fairness creams, and Hindu mythology. So he made his audience. He think that his audience have the same culture as his. So he thinks that they all know about his culture, and he wants to share more about culture so that they can understand more and becomes more knowledgeable in the room. So this shared knowledge forms of an insider connection where the audience feels in on the joke. So shared cultural knowledge as connection. So when Syakiran uses this to make the culture more as to connect with the audience, he uses what many kinds of joke to share the cultural knowledge to everyone. So when he uses this, the audience in front of him will be more friendly and will be more friendly about his culture. So as for example, when he says Krishna means dark, but they always paint him sky blue, the joke only works because the audience shares the cultural differences. So this is the example that when he says in the clip that Krishna means dark, but they always paint him sky blue, which is this is the joke when he wants to tell more about his culture when in this joke. So the next slide, please, Hanif. So this is the conclusion of how this context shape meaning in communication. So the first one is the situational context, the live stand-up stage, which is the comedian stage that Syakiran made in the stage. So the audience and the purpose of entertainment requires him to use clear, punchy and informal language so that his humor lands instantly. So Syakiran used many jokes on the stage to in informal language with respect, of course, so that his humor lands instantly to the audience. So he makes the stage and the rooms more engagedly, so that they will be out of their boredom. So the second one is the cultural context, including values around marriage, fairness of skin, and religious references. Influences his choice of examples, metaphors, and vocabulary. His jokes only make sense because they connect with shared cultural experience of the Indian audience. So the cultural context means that when he's including the values around marriage, he simply explain about what is going on in a marriage, and he makes his jokes that only make sense because they can connect the same shared connection and cultural experience to all of them audience in the room. So that is why that how this context actually shape meaning in the communication of language. So next slide, please, Hanif. Okay. So for to conclude all of this, the interpersonal context, his relationship with the audience shapes his tone and delivery by using self-deprecating humor, exaggeration, and politeness strategies. He reduces social distance, and makes sensitive issues like colorism and social discrimination that easier to laugh about while still communicating criticism. So as I said earlier, that interpersonal context is Syakiran basically criticizing about other culture or even his own culture. So he doesn't criticize them directly, but he criticizes them in his jokes. So the audience that confronts him will be more engagedly, and of course they laugh at his own. Of course they laugh at his jokes, of Syakiran jokes. So they don't care. They have fun when Syakiran criticizes many of the cultural communication or language that have been used in the culture. So together, this context show that meaning is not only in the words he speaks, but also in how, where, and with whom he speaks. Comedy, therefore, becomes more than laughter. It becomes a tool for reflections, resistance, and social connection. So, what this slide means is that comedy is also one of the stand-up comedy is basically one of the platform that we can easily enter to know more about everyone's culture, and then we can have more information and can refresh our mind with the stress by the jokes that have been made by Saharin, for example. And then comedy therefore becomes more like even laughter. It becomes tool for reflection. So even though the comedy that has been used by Saharin, the stand-up comedian, it can becomes a tool for reflection. So basically, we can use the jokes to reflect ourselves, to reflect every culture that exists in this world. So the resistance and social connection we can even understand when you see the clip of Saharin. We can understand that he also say a lot about resistance and social connection that we should be taking notes about. Okay, so I think that is all for our presentation. So
That's all from us.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
Bye bye.